Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Phillips. I'm with Adeia, and I'm going to be making a presentation on one of our innovations. It's light intensity measurement and lighting control associated with a spatial mount for AR display quality of experience optimization. But first, I'm going to give you a little bit of background information about Adeia. So Adeia was previously, before October the 1st, part of the Xperi Corporation. And on October the 1st, so in Xperi, there was the product and solution business line, and also there was the intellectual property business line. And in October the 1st, we separated out the intellectual property from the products and services. And a little bit about the history. We have 85% of our innovation and our patent portfolio is generated internally. 15% comes externally through acquisitions. And it all starts with our internal engineers and researchers and innovators. Since October the 1st, we've continued to expand on that innovation, accelerating it greatly. The areas we're focused in are semiconductor, media, and imaging. Those are our main portfolios. And media is very broad. We cover media experiences in automotive, as well as in-home entertainment. We cover cloud gaming, gaming experiences, and AR, VR, extended reality. So some of the areas that we want to cover related to media is exploration, allowing users a much better way to discover content. Content discovery through enhanced search, covering also natural language processing for voice search, also recommendations, and we also want to enhance the experience, the media experience, through immersive, engaging, and quality of experience enhancements. And also the experience, covering the latest and moving forward in future mobile devices, as well as AR, VR, and extended reality devices, also included haptics and future extended reality areas, such as temperature feedback. Also another area that's interesting is smell and also taste in the future, which is much farther on out. In terms of a little bit about the history of the company, it started way back in 1978, and as you can see, Xperi kind of formed or evolved through a conglomeration of companies, through acquisitions. The same thing related to the intellectual property, and we got intellectual property rights through each one of these acquisitions. And you can see over the course, it has evolved related to, originally it was originally related more focused on very early things like TV recording and things like that in the home. It's evolved over the time to cover things like cloud streaming, and now moving forward, we're looking into cloud gaming, which is more near term, and like I said, the metaverse. And in the future, we're continuing to expand on that as Adeia since we separated. So moving forward, so now that was a little bit about the history of the company. So now we're going to focus on the innovation, and I personally worked on this particular innovation in this research. So what causes a poor quality of experience? I remember back in 2016, I got my first AR headset. It was an AR see-through HMD, and within 2 days after playing with it, I realized there was an issue related to the quality of the display, especially when there's a lot of backlight. So the first thing I did, I was sitting in my office. I set up several little virtual representations across different areas, and I had one located in front of a window. I came in and in the afternoon, everything was fine. I came in the morning, and I couldn't see my little virtual objects anymore because the light was coming through the window, which created a pretty big problem. And then I realized over the course of time, the light didn't have to be that great. So then I was wondering, what caused this? Why do you suffer from these problems, especially related to the displays? Why can't they increase the brightness of the display? Well, that comes with a challenge. And the way these displays are built, there's something called a waveguide. There's an in-grading and an out-grading. So basically, if the projector shines into in-grading, the light bounces through the waveguide and comes out the out-grading to the eyes. We're doing a lot of innovation and improvement of these displays, but the reason why the field of vision is so small in these devices, so it's because of the optimization for the light, because as you increase that field of vision, then you lose light across that space. Anyway, so there's optimization that you can do related to improvement in the waveguide and the displays. There's also improvement you can do in terms of processing to mitigate some of the problems. So what I'm going to focus on today is processing, and it's one of the concepts that we have. So the challenge is, right now, is what we want to do is we want to measure the light in the room and the light sources. We want to associate those into areas within the spatial map. Once we determine those areas, then we can create boundaries around those areas. For dynamically moving objects, we can prevent objects from moving into those areas. If it's statically placed objects, we can recognize there's high light intensity areas, and we can automatically relocate those objects in other areas. And then the final thing is, now that we have smart devices in the home, for instance, smart bulbs, there's also smart glass. You can control the light intensity of what comes through the glass, through the opacity, and also smart curtains and blinds. So we started looking, not only can we, once we have a light measurement, we can calibrate the light measurement with the smart devices in the home and be able to control those as well for an optimal quality of experience. So, starting out with a spatial map or mesh with measured light. So the first thing that we do is we measure light intensities across the space and determine where those light sources are coming from. Depending on that, then we actually can provide control for better quality of experience in terms of where the virtual objects appear within the spatial map and the dynamically moving objects, the areas that they can enter. So one of the things, light intensity controlled object relocation. As I mentioned earlier, we measure the light intensity. We don't necessarily have to have light intensity or sensors to measure light intensity. We can also do this with a camera. I've tested this. We can do it within plus or minus 5% accuracy related to how bright it is in the area. But in the future, these devices will probably incorporate light intensity or light sensors to measure light intensity. But once we do that, then like I said, we can, within the spatial map and the spatial coordinates, since we already know the light intensity measurements, then we can actually create barriers or certain areas, and it changes throughout times of the day, throughout changes of light intensity coming through windows and things like that. We can dynamically change these barriers. We can also, like I said, we can automatically position static virtual objects into new areas with less light intensity and then move those back. And then the next thing I want to cover is smart devices and brightness control. On this slide, you'll see an example of how you can do that association. So in your AR headset display, you can see different devices that are associated that actually can control light. And then you can do an association through your AR headset for each one of those devices. Once those devices are selected, then there's a light measurement that's being done that measures a calibration between the setting and the actual light intensity. So therefore, it will allow, once those associations are made, you can provide better control and control the light intensity coming through those devices or displays or devices. You'll see on here also is an example of a television. So I'll move forward. Some of the innovation that we've worked on before is being able to provide overlays in television. For instance, you could do targeted advertising overlays for someone who has smart glasses on over the television. You also could provide other content such as sports scores or some other type of content in an overlay in certain situations. But there's a problem. If you can still see the display of the television through the AR headset, then that affects the quality of experience. So this is another experience of where we can actually control the brightness of a television when we're doing overlays so you can actually see the television through the display. And smart bulb and window light intensity control. So here's an example. It looks a little bit techy, but it's an overview of an example of dynamically moving objects moving into certain areas. Once they move into those certain areas, we control the light intensity, whether it be smart bulbs, whether it be glass that we can control the opacity from, as well as window blinds or curtains. So in summary, we basically measure light levels while we're spatially mapping a room. We also continue to measure those light levels because things change, so it dynamically changes. So we always update that related to the spatial map. And we statically place VR objects. We move those into areas of lower light intensity if the light increases. And dynamically moving objects, we create no entry zones or barriers where the dynamically moving objects will move out of those areas and not re-enter those areas as long as the lighting is high. And we can also control the smart devices based off of light intensity. Thank you.